All right, ladies and gents, what is happening? Got a good one for you tonight. We're going to talk about the connections between music and astronomy slash astrology. They're pretty much the same thing, yeah. And luckily, I am joined by two good friends who I will bring up onto the stage right now. We've got Seth from the School of Unlearning. What's up, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm great, Merlin. Thanks for the invitation. And I really enjoyed our last talk when I interviewed you on the Radical Health podcast about God's intelligent design and what we can learn from that. So, yeah, I'm all about this conversation, harmony, cosmos, and let's get into it.
Yes, sir. And yeah, let's get Saturn Rooster up here. Then we'll get talking about it. Saturn Rooster, how you doing, brother? Dane.
Hey boys, they're good. Welcome from Oz.
Yeah, yes. So we got most of the world. We got the northern and southern hemispheres recognized here. So for those who don't know, both Seth and Dane have backgrounds in music, whereas my biggest weakness as an astrologer slash occultist slash esoteric researcher is my real lack of musical ability. But I believe you guys both have at least worked in the past professionally in the music industry. Dane, you said you were a sound engineer, right? At some point?
The sound engineer, and I was the front man for the band, for my band, called Quirk, obviously, it's my surname. But yes, I was a muso and sound engineer, yeah.
That's awesome. And dude, did you say you like did something with the Chili Peppers back in the day?
Yes, yeah, toured with the Chili Peppers. Well, I met Flea when I was 13 on the beach here, right behind me here. And then 28 years with Flea and the Chili Peppers, yeah.
Man, there are a few bands genuinely cooler than the Chili Peppers, bro. Like when I was 18 years old in my first car, just blasting the Chili Peppers, there was nothing better than that, man.
Yeah.
And Seth, your musical background, do you want to share that, please?
Sure. Yeah, I was a professional saxophone player for a number of years, and I was always a music teacher as well. I love teaching. And I went to school. I went to college for sound recording and technology. That's my bachelor's degree. So yeah, I studied sound recording in undergrad and then music education and more music performance in postgrad. I joined as many ensembles as I could when I was at school. I played in a traditional Cambodian ensemble because we had a big Cambodian population where I was going to school in Lowell, Massachusetts. It's the second biggest Cambodian population in the country besides like Long Beach, I guess. So anyways, we had these traditional Cambodian musicians teaching us how to play traditional folk music from their country. It was beautiful. So, but in addition to that, jazz, brass band is kind of my bread and butter, which is like a mixture of punk and jazz. So those are my two favorite styles of music. A little bit of hip hop sprinkled in there. You know, that's what brass band really is. So yeah, I've produced countless records. I can't really tell you how many, but looking forward to the day where I get more into music, because right now my career is not based around music, but it's always been a piece of my life. And there's always a song stuck in my head. So there's always music going on. I think in music. Sometimes I think I can communicate a little better in music than I can with English.
For sure, dude. I mean, music is the universal language, you know? And what we're going to talk about today is the music of the heavens, you know, how God designed heaven to be an instrument. Like it's literally heaven. If I had to put it like in a way, it's like heaven is literally the instrument that God plays, or at least has set in motion. That music you were talking about, bro, is that like similar to ska when you said it's like a mix of punk and brass instruments, or is that not ska adjacent?
It's kind of like a lot of the kids who liked ska in, middle school and high school ended up in brass bands because it has that high energy. The reason why brass band is punk is because of the fast tempo, the aggressive and loud nature of it. It's not very dynamic. It's just always loud. That's for like, I won't speak with such a generalization, but for the most part, New Orleans style brass bands are very loud, very fast. The tempo is, that's the quarter note. So it's pretty fast, just like punk rock, and it's aggressive. It's in your face. There's no stage because brass band musicians don't need one. There's no microphones needed. Everyone's got an acoustic instrument that can project. And so the whole idea of not needing a stage, not needing sound reinforcement and speakers and electricity, that's kind of punk rock, because it's a little bit against the status quo of what a normal stage band should be. But then it has the bluesy, improvisatory nature of jazz, and it has that urban, gritty, like boom bap nature of hip hop. So just check out New Orleans brass band music. If anyone wants to hear a record, the last record I produced is called Block Party by the Young Fellas Brass Band. And that's fellas with a Z at the end of it. Young Fellas Brass Band. Check out the album Block Party. You'll hear what I mean.
That's how fellas is meant to be spelled, fellas. Right there with a Z at the end. Stylized. All right. So I'm going to take off the comments off the screen real quick. This is my first time using StreamYard, by the way. So guys, please forgive me in case I mess up. But using StreamYard now for stream with more people. So guys, I brought this, I've shown this before, this the sine wave, right? And look at that. You have a play on the word sine, right? A sine wave, an S-I-N-E wave, but also signs, like signs of the zodiac. And, you know, we can look at Genesis chapter 1, where God put the stars and the luminaries there, and they shall be for signs and for seasons, right? Dane, I'm sorry. I think you might be echoing a little bit. Am I hearing that correctly, or is that someone, or is that me echoing? Do you hear that, Seth, or no?
Yeah, maybe Dane, if you just mute for now until you talk, it'll probably take care of that feedback.
Sorry, man.
No, you're right.
But yeah, so like just play on the words, right? So like you have the sine wave, but then well, it's the wave of signs, and we're here to talk about music and how it relates to astronomy, right? And this is just from the Wikipedia of harmonics, because I just curiously looked that up, right? And it says in physics, acoustics, and telecommunications, a harmonic is a sine wave with a frequency, blah blah blah. But like, you know, it talks about how it's right, as all harmonics are periodic at the fundamental frequency. So astrology is the study of periods, right? Like every planet is in a sign for a certain period of time. And you know, the connections between music and astronomy and astrology are so vast. So we're gonna have a good one tonight. Gentlemen, is there anywhere you guys want to go specifically, or anywhere you want to take the conversation after that?
No, man, perfectly said. And then we got the Mayan. I mean, I'm basically just into Egypt and the Maya and those, you know, insane structures around the world. That kind of informed me about that these guys knew about all this, and that they understood these very simple principles, very, very simple principles about ratio, of course, when you're up in fretboard, ratio, planetary ratios, just what you just said, basically. So they understood that really well. So I'll just follow them.
Yeah, and I think harmonics is a good place to start too, because people have to understand that harmonics and the overtone series is a fundamental part of the universe, how the universe actually vibrates. So can you pull the harmonics up again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the overtones. So harmonics and overtones are kind of interchangeable terms, but basically that little oval at the top, it's basically think about a string vibrating. It's fixed at both ends. If that's a guitar string, one end is the saddle, one end is the one end is the nut, one end is the bridge, and the string's vibrating up and down, right? So when you play a low E string, that's what the string is doing, but it's also vibrating in 2. It's also vibrating at the same exact time, the one below that. It's also vibrating in 3. And in 4, and in 5, and in 6, and in 7, and it actually contains all of those vibrations simultaneously. So when you play a low guitar E, or any note actually, and if you sing a note, you don't just hear one pitch. Now you hear one pitch primarily because it's the loudest one, but all of those are vibrating at once. And that's what people need to understand, is that it's just a fundamental part of the universe that when there's a note, there's actually so many notes being heard and being activated at the same exact time. So you have the fundamental frequency, you have double the fundamental frequency, you have triple, quadruple, quintuple, sextuple, all the way down the line until it gets so quiet you can't really hear, you know, the harmonics that are way, way up there, and because they attenuate with every one. And one last thing I'll say on that is each instrument and each human being has a unique sound to their voice, which is called timbre. And so it's unique ratio of the loudness of the overtones that gives your voice its fingerprint. So Dane might have more of the fifth harmonic than I do. Merlin might have a more pronounced, fourth harmonic. And it's just so mind-blowing to me when I realize this is how the fundamental nature of the universe works is through overtones. And if there's a vibration, there's going to be double, triple, quadruple, etc. of that fundamental vibration all happening together. Every instrument works this way. Unless you're like a synthesizer and you perform a sine wave, it's actually just one frequency. That's why synthesizers sound sterile. They don't sound human. They don't sound as expressive. And you have to actually combine frequencies and combine oscillators in a synth to make it sound more rich. But whether it's a trumpet, guitar, a voice, a bell, or a string, you're going to hear the fundamental frequency and all of its overtones stacked all at the same time. I hope that made sense.
That makes perfect sense. And dude, like I thought a few things there were like, synthesizer, synthetic, it's fake. It is fake. It's not, it's a simulacrum of an instrument more than a real instrument, right? And then what's cool about octaves is like the notes work in octaves, but there's only 7 notes. So it's like the 8th is the next first, if that makes sense, right? So like even like you said, it's so fundamental in creation. Our weeks are octaves. Like Monday is an octave of last Monday, will be an octave of the next Monday. How cool is that? So yeah. And then of course, sorry, go ahead, brother.
Well, yeah, anytime you have a doubling of frequency, so right there you have the fundamental, then you have the next one, which is the octave, because it's times 2. So instead of 1 period, there's actually 2 things happening. So that's the octave. The one with 4 loops is the next octave. And the one with 8 is the next octave above that. So anytime you have a doubling in frequency, take any random frequency, 395. If you double that, you get the octave above it. It's the same pitch. G, G, G.
That is interesting. Dane, I had a question if you don't mind. Like on your channel, you go over so many mind-blowing things connecting the measurement of the stars to the measurement of the fretboard. You'll say things like, "Oh, this fret is such and such millimeters from the nut." And if you don't mind, could you like share one of those, please? And then I think Seth, we were talking about that earlier. I'm like, Seth had a question for you about different guitar lengths.
Yep. Yeah, this happened last year on the 23rd of August, right? And this is when my mind was completely blown. So I was looking into the music of the spheres, but also the metric and imperial connections. Everyone says that, metric came later. There's no connection between those measures, like cubits and imperial and metric weren't related to each other in any way. So I just started to look into it. But on the 23rd of August, I found this guy, and I thought everyone's exhausted the harmonic series, the 144, 432, that whole harmonic series of those notes. And it's the Pythagorean harmonic series, I call it. But it really hadn't gone anywhere, really, And I thought, hang on a minute, if we're talking about measures and these ancient geniuses who could lift these crazy amounts of stone into these buildings, surely these measures would be based on something fundamental. They will be based on the laws that are unbreakable. If you went to another planet and jammed with some aliens, when they halve the string, just like we've just been saying, you halve that string, you're going to get a copy of that note. It's going to be higher or lower, but it's going to be the exact same note because it's just, it's the same length of string either side of, say, where you press your finger, the same length. So, especially with octaves. So I looked into the fretboard, looked at this Luvia, and he was showing, and I just got lucky because it was the first video that I pulled up, and he just picked a random string length, and it was 630 millimeters. So, and then he went into, he popped out on his computer program, and it showed, fret 1, fret 2, fret 3, and because I've been looking at the planets for so long, I know all these numbers for the planets. And the first fret was 35.4. So you times that by 10, we take out the dot, and you've got 354, which is the annual moon cycle. So And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Then I went to the fret 2 and it was 687. And I was like, well, that's the sidereal period for Mars. So then I was going, hang on. And then he went all the way to, popped out all the frets. Then he got to the 24th fret and it was 400 from the nut, it was 157.5. And from the bridge and from the nut, it was 472.5. So anyway, all I did was, I thought, well, Saturn is the boundary. And we always hear about Saturn being the boundary, the limit, is a boundary. So I thought, okay, 24th fret is the boundary. 24 times the 157.5, and bam, we had 378, which was Saturn. So I was like, well, Saturn's on the 24th fret. He's at the boundary. He's at the last fret. I mean, we're onto something. So since then, since last year, of all of them, Jupiter is at fret 19. It's all written up on this fret on this what's called.
Let me put that up on the full screen there. You mind holding? So, oh, dude,
So, yeah,
there's so much gravy in there.
The moon is at fret 1. Mars is at fret 2. Saturn's down here at the last fret, and Jupiter's at fret 19. Because he's 210 millimeters, he's on the 19th fret. Time zones those together, and you get 399, which is the synodic period of Saturn, of Jupiter, sorry. So, I mean, they're all there. And it's all just simple, very, very basic stuff. And of course, I mean, these laws, like when you halve a string and you get the octave, these are things that mankind can do nothing about. If we didn't know, we travel across to Japan thousands of years ago, and we can't speak their language. We can still all understand, play an octave, and they'll be going, yeah, us too. We understand these same principles. So without any language, these things can still be, they're universal things. Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'll just reinforce what he's saying too. Like, got my guitar here. So, you have a length of a string, it's open. And when I play the 12th fret, I actually cut the string exactly in half. So just like there's a doubling in frequency, there's actually a halving of length. And so those are both E. E. And it's just the same pitch that's sort of registered in our head that we call E. And all the strings do that. But the other harmonics too are at an equal ratio. For example, like when you go on the 7th fret, you have these harmonics here. You guys probably heard harmonics, and that's basically 1/3 of the length of the string. So you can cut the string in half to get the octave. You can cut the string in 1/3 to get the 7th, to get the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why it's called the 5th. It's the 5th scale degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's 1/3 length. So there's all these ratios: 2 to 3, 3 to 4. All these perfect ratios that Pythagoras knew. He knew all about this, and he was teaching that with his monochord, his like one string instrument. And we'll start to see there are some planetary interval ratios that are similar to the string harmonic ratios as well.
Dude, that is awesome. Yeah, just the fact that you connected Mars and the moon that quickly, then you got all the planets in there, and Saturn being the limit, So like everyone who's halfway decent at astrology does know that Saturn symbolically rules limits and bounds. But that's also why I'm such like a vociferous advocate that Saturn truly is the outermost planet. It is the limiting planet. Thinking that anything's beyond Saturn is, in my opinion, such a psyop, because everything of like the ancients, they corresponded Saturn with Aries because Aries is a co-significator of the first house. So like, yeah, Aries is the fall of Saturn, but Aries is the first sign, and they counted backwards. Like they thought Saturn was the first planet, and then Jupiter was the second, and so on and so forth. And just I don't know, thinking that Saturn isn't the boundary to me is just absolutely just silly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I concur with that. Yeah, he is the boundary. You can't see past that with a naked eye. And for me, it's basically those ancient peoples, the Egyptians and the Mayans, and all over the world, these incredible structures. These guys, nobody can beat them. They're unbeatable. And from there, we can see a complete retardation of mankind. Man has not gotten smarter. I don't listen to the Greeks. The Greeks themselves admit that they have no idea what they're doing. You can watch Michael Tazarian. I've watched him for 18 years, and absorbed all this stuff, and it's incredible. And he cites hundreds of different people that he's gotten all this from, including the Greeks themselves. And they say that we inherited all these, structures and incredible things, but we've basically got no idea what we're doing. And they had no idea. So, you can see that. So I only go to those structures. I look at, the base length of the Great Pyramid, 3024, or the height and the ratio between, just the simple stuff. I don't get into anything crazy. And that basic stuff informs us of every synodic period and how they're all musically connected to each other. And that's why we've heard music of the spheres for all these years, from Pythagoras or Walter Russell. That's why they're saying this. But I could never understand their diagrams or their writings, like Walter Russell. It was all pretty complicated and convoluted, But that's why I looked at the fretboard and went to the monochord stuff and realised immediately, hang on a minute, this is child's play. It's so simple. Now the main key was 63. Now you can make. I'd like to share this with the audience because this is mind bending. It's basically, you can have 630 millimeters, but you could not play this guitar. But think about this as a mind experiment. Say 630 feet. Now that's a big guitar, right? A 630 foot guitar, but it works the same. The principles are still the same. If you want to play and put it as a luthier, put the frets in, the frets will still be spaced exactly the same way, right? So using the base of the Great Pyramid, we can get any fret, the width of any fret. So the first fret or the second fret, the width always, how they get smaller and smaller as you go down the fretboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out, for example, D. D's played on the 22nd fret and the 10th fret. So we just look at the width of each of those two frets and we divide that into the base of the Great Pyramid, and it gives us the actual note. So the 10th fret is 144 hertz. The 22nd fret is 288 hertz. Well, that's exactly what we get. Well, we divide the base of the Great Pyramid, 3024, and we grab the fret width, and bang, it gives us the note. I mean, I'll never get over this because it's just, what can you say? And every fret does that. So you get the first fret width and you divide it into the base of the Great Pyramid, it gives you the corresponding frequency that's played on that fret. I mean, it's mental.
That's wild. I never thought about the width of the fret actually being, so standardized that it actually relates to the Great Pyramid like that. And since we just had Pi Day yesterday, I should mention the Great Pyramid, the base to the height ratio is 22:7.
Yeah.
And that's 22 divided by 7 is pi. It's the closest approximation to pi that we have. So there's obviously sacred geometrical circles, wrapped up in the Great Pyramid, but the circle is part of every great sacred geometry, and from the circle we get 6 and 12. And that's where a lot of our musical unitary modeling comes from, is the 12 and the 6, and the 60, the sexagesimal system being 60, base 60, base 12 is also a huge, huge thing in music, and mapping. So you know how we have seconds and minutes in time, but you also have those in maps. And there's no coincidence there. Well, that's one giant coincidence because the sun is the clock above our map. So they're so linked.
Yeah, and even in astronomy, we've got seconds and minutes. Seconds are the smallest. That's like the smallest division that we can accurately do with astronomy too. We measure in seconds with all the heavenly bodies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and like the fact that they use the word seconds and minutes as measurements of space, but also it's like how I was talking in my last video about how like there are and Dane mentioned this perfectly. It's the quadrivium, the 4 mathematical sciences that make up the mathematical part of the 7 classic liberal arts. You've got mathematics, geometry, music, and astrology/astronomy. And yeah, just the fact that seconds deal with timing and space, and music is nothing without timing. Music would be trash if there was no timing to it. So that's just like quite an incredible connection.
Can I share some gravy on seconds real quick?
Please do.
All right, I just shared my screen. You may want to pull that up.
Oh, sure. Let's get it up.
So I've heard people allege that the unit of a second is arbitrary, that it could be any length of time. And I contend that it's not really. It comes from the cosmos, comes from the day, right? If you take one day and divide it into 24 hours and then 60 again, you get 1 second. You also mentioned the quadrivium, and there's the trivium. And so 4 and 3, you multiply those, you get 12. 12 is fundamental to our clock and to our sense of time. But moving on from that, there's a unit called the hertz, Hz, and it means cycles per second. So if you have a string that's vibrating at 110 hertz, it's vibrating at 110 cycles per second of the fundamental frequency. It's named after this guy, Heinrich Hertz. 1 hertz is 60 beats per minute. It's exactly 1 second. 1 hertz is 1 second. Hertz in German, Herz, means heart, and the average resting heart rate in the healthy human is exactly 1 hertz. So is that just a coincidence, or is there something deeper to that? Was Heinrich Hertz actually the guy who, introduced this unit of time, or is there something more cosmic at play, or something bigger happening because his namesake is the thing that he gave to the world?
What year do you know off the top? I'm sorry if that's a random question, but like, was that like a 1700s thing, or was that like a 1900s thing?
It was I think it was 1960 that we adopted the Hertz officially. But he was around before then. He was around, I don't think he was around in the 1960s. I think he was around in the 1800s, but we used to call it cycles per second, and that was just too clunky, and they shortened it to Hertz. And it's so ironic to me and so synchronous that the word for cycles per second is the heartbeat. It means heart, and that's exactly the unit of time that it is.
Dude, that's incredible, man. And like, I just love the word heart in general because it's a very basic thing that heart is an anagram for earth. But I like breaking down the Lord's Prayer as much as I can. And most people mispronounce the Lord's Prayer because anything besides the original King James Version will say on earth as it is in heaven. But in actuality, it says in earth. That's the Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done in earth. So we are literally within something. And I think it's hard to argue that God is love. I think if I had to say what God is love. I think. Do I know? No. But I think God is love. So I do think there's a chance that we live literally inside of God's heart, which is pretty freaking cool, I think,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me throw my screen up for a second. So like just some
Yep.
numbers that Dane mentioned, Scott, I was just jotting down as you were talking. So profound, dude. So 63, 30, 24. And if you don't mind, Dane, would you mind sharing how you connected? Because once you said it and I saw it on your channel, it was so obvious, but at the same time, so mind-blowing. Because people think, and this is why I love I always intuitively loved the imperial system. The other day I did a video on Pi Day, and I forgot to mention that, Pi Day can only be March 14th because it's 314. And most other countries in the world besides the US do day, month, year, right? So their 314 would be the 31st of April, but April doesn't have 31 days. April has 30 days. So the only possible Pi Day is in the imperial system using the Gregorian calendar like that. So like, it's just like, there are so many things that show me the imperial system truly is the right way. And I think the metric system, but I don't know. It's also, I guess they're both valid in a way because Dane, you connect them brilliantly. Anyway, my question that I was getting at though, you connected the word mile to the metric system, but obviously the connection is there because to say 1,000 in Spanish is mille. So would you mind sharing what you know about the mile and the connection to the metric system? Oh, let me put you back up on the stage. That was quite rude.
No, you're right. So, I mean, you hear Randall Carlson and all these guys talking about that. It's very old, it's ancient, the metric, talking about imperial, and they don't know where it comes from. And they'll all admit this. They all say we don't know where they got it and how they developed it, but it's ancient. And I don't know if they're just lying or they've sworn an oath because those guys are all Masons. But it was so simple. I mean, I've got an IQ of a donkey, and I worked it out, so I've got no idea how they missed it. But it's what we were saying with the quadrivium and timing and time, and all the whole system is one system. It isn't like you do music over here and measurements over there and astronomy over there, and they're all doing their own thing. No, they're all doing the same fucking thing, right? The same thing. They cannot be separated. It's not taking your head off your body and putting your head over there. It doesn't work. They're all one. So we get the so minutes per week, right? We've got 24 hours. We got 10,080 minutes in 7 days. So we get this though because geometry is a part of this, right? Because it's part of the same system. They don't act alone. They act together. It's logic. It's logos. You cut that string in half, you get an octave. People say, why? It's like a 3-year-old. Why, Dad? Why? Why? It's basically really infantile to ask these sorts of questions, in my opinion. I don't have much time for it anymore. I was really placating there for a while, but I won't be anymore. I'm over it. There's pseudo-skeptics, in my opinion. So the sixth circle, right? The seed of life or the fruit of life. Now, there's nothing we can do about that, right? There's nothing we can do. We don't need language. We can do this, even if we were mute, all of us were mute, we could all just look and go, oh, this is, you can't break it. You draw a circle and you can only fit 6 around it. You can't fit 7, you can only fit 6. And they all perfect. And we don't need language. I hate English, Japanese, I don't care. All languages are shit. This is all we need. This is all we need. So, and God or Logos is giving us all the tools that we need by just this stuff. It's all you need, man. So we've got the 7 planets, right, or the seven wanderers, right there. Boom. So the rule of 6, okay, here's one for you. So when we got, I just stayed with the rule of 6. We've got 6 petals. Obviously, 6 is sort of a natural fundamental law. So then, okay, well, let's go with 1 and 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, 32. That's 6 steps. I'm just following the law of the seed. 6, let's just stop at 6. So we add those up and we get 63. That's our magical string length, which governs the whole of the synodic periods. Then we've done 6 steps. We've added up the 6 doubles, and we've got 63. Let's times it by the 6 steps. We get 378. That's the synodic period of Saturn. Why is he called the Saturn cube? The cube, the cube, the cube. Why? Well, we can draw a cube with the seed of life. Right, that's how we do it. We need that sort of geometry structure to draw a cube. Well, we've just done 6 steps of doubling, and we've times it by 6, which is how many steps, and we get 370. We get Saturn. Saturn just automatically appears. His synodic period is 378 days. So, I mean, these things are insane. So, we'll get back to the imperial and metric. So, when we take, as we know, a week goes around 7 days, and Merlin said before, back to the beginning. It goes around in a circle. We're talking about pi or 2 pi. So, we go 7 days of the minutes, and we times it by 2 pi. And we get 63360, which is how many inches there are in a mile. Okay, do you see that? So we've got the 1080 minutes, and we times it by 2 pi. Where am I going? Down here, the bottom one. 2 pi, and we get how many inches in a mile, right? I mean, that's mental. Randall Carlson and all these guys never tell you that. I mean, I don't know if they don't know this, but so we've got time, we've got inches in 1 mile, we've got 2 pi, and we've only used those fundamental, simple laws that all of man observed, and none of us could do anything about it. That's 6 and a little bit, right? So we got minutes in a week times 6 and a little bit, that's 2 pi, and we get inches in a mile. Where do you think these people got it from, these ancient people? It's ancient, yes. Where they get it? It's so simple. And then we go into the quadrille of music. We take C, for example, which is just the doubling column. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. You get up to 256. And there was a Frenchman, because the French claimed that they came up with metric, and they lied.
Those damn French.
They got to measure it, and they got it. They knew what they were doing, but they called 256 philosophical pitch, or what was it, scientific pitch. But it never really got adopted, but they called it that. So let's divide even this 1080, which is minutes of the week, by 256, and we get 39375. Well, that's how many inches there are in 1 meter, right? So we've got metric, imperial. It's all one thing. They were never ever separate. They never found it later or came up with it later. That was always there. So the base of the Great Pyramid, 3024 in feet. Then in meters, it's 9216, which is the note of D. Literally, you go in the harmonic series and you look down the D column, 9216 is a D note. Right? It's all so simple that everyone online, there's nobody else on the planet that's doing this. Quite literally, I hate saying that because it sounds lame, but there's no one else. So they completely they study astronomy, or they'll look at the music, or they'll look at metric and all these other things, but they never connect them, and they were always connected. They're just always there. So yeah, the inches in 1 meter, 39375. We times this the note of C, 256, by 2 pi, and we get 1609, which is how many meters there are in a mile. So imperial and metric are linked by the quadrivium, by music, by pi, by 2 pi. That's how they did it. This is how they linked it all together. They basically discovered these things, these ancient people. They didn't invent them. They realised, okay, these 6 and a little bit, right? Okay, you can go around 6 times and a bit more. And they worked out over time, of course, you can use base 10, base whatever. But they realised that these things can't be broken. And when you link them together, you all of a sudden get cyanotic periods. You start to realise, oh, hang on a minute. The universe is a stringed instrument. Pythagoras said it. Many masters said that the universe is a stringed instrument. And they weren't mincing their words. So yeah, if you guys want to talk a bit more about that, but metric and imperial are linked by pi, by the harmonic series of notes. That's how they glue together. That's how they go.
That's awesome. Dude, I always had a feeling that the imperial system wasn't just arbitrary. It had to have come from somewhere. And it seems like everything comes from the cosmos, like everything. And that beauty of 6 is not arbitrary, like you said. There's 6 circles around another circle of the same size. If you just have a compass, not the north-south compass, but like a pencil compass, that's all you need to create the flower of life pattern, which I think is the fundamental structure and vibratory nature of the universe, at least this physical manifestation of it. And the other reason I think that is because 6. Oh, carbon, the atomic
666, yeah.
Well, the atomic weight of carbon is 12, and it has 6 protons, electrons, and neutrons, and all that stuff. So 6 is just embedded into the fabric of our physical nature. And when you create the flower of life pattern, it gives you 6. It's not like you have to go and try to create a hexagon. It just 6 is embedded in it. Bees create hexagonal hives. 6 just it is there, and we then extrapolate everything from that. Like I think the sexagesimal system, a base 12 as well, kind of comes from just the fundamental nature of the sixness of the world. It's also in our bodies. You know, when you count, you can count on one hand all the little folds and bits of your fingers. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so there's this kind of even way to count using your thumb as the pointer to all your 4 times 3 sections of your hand, of your fingers. So the 12, the 6, that's how we divide the day, right? The day divided by 12, divided by 2, divided by 60, divided by 60, there's your second. And just even the physical nature of it. Like, people need to spend time with a compass making the flower of life. You know, that is one of the greatest meditations you can do. Sit with a paper and a compass and just create the flower of life, and you will see. It's easy to do. You don't need a ruler. You don't need anything. You just need to make a circle, put the point of the compass on the edge of the circle, do it again, and then put the point of the compass at every time you see an intersection, and just keep making circles. There's your flower of life. You'll see the hexagon pop out. You'll see the 12s pop out. All these 144-degree angles start popping out. And that's how the cathedral architects built sacred geometry in the rose windows, was with one compass and a piece of paper.
Yeah. Yep, that actually reminds me that when you actually want to do a fretboard, so you can look up these videos, it's mind-blowing. To me, it is, because it's so simple, right? Now, what are the levers on it? They divide and rule.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay, it's all there. They're trying to initiate the whole planet. I swear to God, people are dumber than me, and that's pretty hard. So, basically, when you want to do the fretboard, so for example, people will say, like, there's a great mathematician in Australia. He's a professor at the New South Wales University, and his name's Professor Norman Wildberger. This guy's a genius, right? And he goes into, like, you know, all the square root of 2 and how the numbers go on forever and how it's ridiculous and it's garbage. A lot of mathematics is just total shit, right? So basically, if we want to do the 12 notes on the scale, because you've got all these other people saying, oh, 16 notes, or, you know, Edo 31 and all that. I've listened to it and it's pretty discordant. You know, you can hear how discordant it is. So 12 really is the notes, right? You know, all the way up to the 12th fret. And you can have, most guitars have 22 frets or whatever. You can have as many as you like, but they start getting pretty skinny as you go up. But how do you actually do it? If you want to do it without, so it's the ratio that we use today, the modern ratio, is 1 divided by the 12th root of 2. Right now, people don't have to remember this stuff, guys. It's just giving an example of how we actually divide up the fretboard these days. You go 1 divided by the square root of 12th root of 2, and you get 0.944. Okay, now 0.944. If you times that by, say, 63, so we have 630 millimeters for our string length, and we times that by 0.944, and that'll give us the first fret. All right, that gives us the first fret distance, which is 594. Right, 594 is the first fret. That's from the bridge of the guitar up to first fret. Okay. Now, what I did the other day is I minus, just for fun, I minus 378, I minus Saturn of 594, and we got 216, which is the moon. So the Saturn moon matrix. This happens over and over.
Man. Yeah. They're so connected.
And what did I say about the first fret? The first fret was 354, which is the annual moon cycle, 354 days. So the first fret is 594 from the other end, but the 354 is the width of the first fret. Okay, that's the width. But now we're talking about the distance from the bridge to the first fret, which is 594. Let's take off Saturn, and we get 216. We get the moon. Saturn and the moon are linked. They are always linked. They're together at the 24th fret as well. We can go into that as, you know. Basically, there are no mistakes. There are 0 mistakes. And I didn't do any of this. This stuff was like already in the heavens, you know. It's already in the flower of life. I can't do anything about that. That's just law. So if we want to divide the fretboard up into, say, 12 12 equal spacing. We don't need this 12th root of 2 and all this mad new stuff that we've got. You can just use your ear for a start. That's the best way. That's how I've always done it. I don't use tuners. I've always used my ear. And that's how basically they were doing it. But of course, you got curious ancient priests, and they went, okay, let's measure it. Oh, they're getting smaller. You know, what's going on here? They start to investigate these things, and now we've got all this knowledge on how this works. 1 divided by the 12th root of 2 or whatever. But the easiest way to do it is say, I'll just quickly draw it here, and I'll make the string. There's your nut at that end, right? There's your nut with it up like this. And you find your first note, F, we call it F today. And then you get the width of that first fret. And all you do is you get your dividers, you know, these things, you just get those, and you measure, you go to your first fret. They used to use like gut or whatever to go around, and they could move them. They could move the frets along the fretboard quite easily. Now it's our thick, but you know, you can move them up and down. Some African instruments still do that. Those beautiful things, they can always move and adjust a little bit. So anyway, you get your dividers, you go to your first fret, and you draw a semicircle, which I'll quickly do. You draw this semicircle from your first fret width up, and then you get your ruler. This is a bit short. You go then all the way down to the very end of your string length from that. You know, can you see up there? You've done your little semicircle, and then you draw it. I'll just do it with my hand. You go down to the angle, so you create this big triangle. Now the next fret, all you do is get your dividers. You draw a straight line up, and there, straight line up. There's your first fret. Then you get your dividers, and you go and adjust your dividers to this. And then you draw an arc. You've got the second fret, and you do this all the way down. So you don't even need mathematics. People will say that they didn't invent that way back then, the 12th root of 2, and they didn't have that in Egypt. Okay, no worries. They had dividers. They had this. They could still do that. Now this is again like the flower of life. It's a law. There's nothing we can do about it. As soon as you apply those very simple techniques, then you have 12 perfectly spaced, you know, equal notes. F sharp, G, all the way up to your E again.
Wait, so I got a question.
Yeah.
So you're saying that, because we're talking about equal temperament, you know, there's different tuning systems. There's like, what we use is we divide the octave into 12 even intervals. But before, a lot of pianos were actually tuned with a different tuning system, like a, you know, just intonation, where it actually resonates with the harmonics. Are you saying that the equal temperament 12 tone system has always been there, and it wasn't like a modern invention?
Yeah, I'm saying that I think the builders, we really don't know who they were. Malcolm Tazarian, I tend to agree with him about them being from Ireland, with the ancient Irish type of seafaring, whatever, right? You go around and do it. They were kind of the peak, the pinnacle, and everything got lost after there. But so when we can see that, I'll just rub it off, but that you draw the triangle, and all the way down, you just keep adjusting your dividers, and you'll get the next note, the next note, the next note. So you're right, they were doing it like Bach and all those guys are doing, what did you call it again?
Like just intonation?
Just intonation, and going off the notes. But like I say, the knowledge was lost. And these guys were doing their own thing. They're coming up with different ways, and there's many ways to attack when it comes to music. You know, all these people now are trying all these different, like 31 Edo and all that. You can see videos on it. It's amazing. But when we apply simple geometry, you know, like you get the first fret, you get your dividers, draw the arcs all the way up, and it just so happens you get 12 perfectly spaced notes. Now, you can do it all sorts of ways, but when we start to look at, like I showed you before, the base of the Great Pyramid, take the width, I mean, it's just uncanny to me, right? And just insanely ridiculous that we can have all those widths all the way up the fretboard and divide it into the pyramid base, and you get the corresponding note. 144, 288, 432. You know, all these ones that we've never heard of before, the 432, they all just appear there. Like they were always meant to be found, because they're naturally occurring. You don't need to modify or squish or try and make it fit. They just emerge. It's emergent. So yeah, I know about the just tuning thing, but it's like you say, they were very stuck. They couldn't do much, did they? You had to change like the tuning of each instrument to like change keys. And now that we have this what we call pattern, equal temperament, you don't have to do that. You can change keys quite smoothly. We do have the comma thing, the Pythagorean comma, but you've got to be pretty clear to be able to hear that. Most really can't sort of even hear the comma.
Dude, there's so much to touch on there. I pulled up so many things you guys were talking because like the connections are insane. And Dane, like you're saying how all these modern day researchers who are like decent, you're like, how do I do this? You know, I'm a C student. How do I make these connections and no one else does? And I think there's just something in us that like if it's like a modern explanation doesn't make sense, like there's some drive to make it make sense. And I think what they don't do that we do is we connect the exoteric with the esoteric, where they're pretty much just concerned with the exoteric, which is in my opinion, a big mistake. But I wanted to share this, Seth, dude. When you were talking about your fingers, you can count on the fingers. I have to give credit to Marty Leeds. Like many things I know, credit to Marty Leeds here. He pointed out that pictures of Jesus or depictions of Jesus and depictions of the saints. Why are his hands? Because they're counting on their hands. They're literally counting on their fingers. The simple, like God made us in his image. Guys, you have like you pointed out, Seth, you've got 12 phalanges excluding your thumb. With your thumb, you have 14 phalanges. Again, with this, all credit to Marty Lee. It's Gnostic Academy. Go check it out. Have to plug it because this is his knowledge that I got from him. But there are 28 phalanges on your hands. 28 is the second perfect number. A perfect number is when you add all of the divisors besides the number itself, and it equals the number. So, for instance, 6 is the first perfect number. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. Those are the number 6 can be divided by. For 28, which is literally on your hands, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 14 equals 28. So God put the second perfect number on your hands, not just on your hands, but also on your toes. So, and the number is 28. I mean, it relates to pi. I can't explain it that well. But again, Seth, you mentioned earlier, sorry to just rip off here, but there was so much good shit there, guys. Seth, dude, when you were like 4 and 3 times 12, or 4 times 3 is 12. Yeah, and 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 and 12 are the two most important numbers in astrology. There are 7 planets or 2 luminaries, 5 planets, and 12 signs for them to be in.
And music.
Exactly, and music. 7 primary notes, or what? How would you say it? 7
notes of
chromatic?
a major scale. 7 notes of a major scale, and then there's 12 chromatic notes.
Dude, absolutely incredible.
Chromatic, chroma, color, but also chronos. No?
Nice. Yeah, dude. And then maybe I'm late to this party here, but I forgot which of you guys mentioned the cube earlier, and this was pointed out. I could be, maybe this is the most basic, like whatever, but dude, the Kabbalah is the cube god, and you can make a fucking square, like a 3-dimensional square with the Kabbalah. Like, that's literally, this is 2 squares on top of one another, plus the thing on the bottom. So, I mean, I find that to be pretty wild. That ties in somehow to all of this. And then the last thing I want to touch on before I let you guys rip again, I'm sorry, is like Dane mentioned earlier, the 6 and a little bit. Guys, this is Dane's discovery. Let me pull this up. So, right, when it comes to radius to circumference ratios, the way it works is if you want the circumference of a circle, you take the radius and you lay the circumference formula is pi times r times 2. So a circle with a radius of 1 has a circumference of 6.283. So it's a ratio of 1 to 6.283. That's why Dane was talking about the 6 and then the little bit, which, and again, Dan, I hope you don't mind that I dubbed that the sacred secret of the circle, but that little bit, guys, there's no way we can touch it all here. You have to go check out Saturn Rooster's channel, Dane's channel. He's done incredible things with that little bit left over. I mean, I think it's like so simple, like, oh, it's just a little bit left over. But like you mentioned earlier, the ancient builders, they knew these things, and they were so smart because they weren't scrolling TikTok all day. They weren't on Facebook. They weren't doom scrolling. They were sitting there staring at circles and staring at the heavens and making these connections that are incredible and undeniable. So I will land the plane there, gentlemen. Do you want to bring the conversation anywhere in particular after this? Because we covered a lot. I mean, we're gonna keep going, but dude,
I'll just
go ahead,
cover things. I've sort of got prepared for a few little things here, but real basic stuff. This is what I'm sort of trying to get at, guys and girls, is that I only use, say, that 6 pedals, okay? Like things like that, the 6 pedals are things that mankind would have just stumbled upon, okay, and called across the valley to his mate in another cave and said, "Oi, come over here, come and have a look at this." So they're basically these fundamental laws, and we don't have to, like, you can add from 1 to 6, and you've got that, 1 is 21, right? Is it 21? Yeah. 1 plus 2 plus, anyone can just add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Simple, childlike, simple stuff. So when we've got, say, 1 to 27, just add from 1 to 27. You've got 378, right? That's the synodic period of Saturn. So, I mean, these things would have been noticed by the astronomers, by the, the people that were just looking at the stars every night in Globeckley Temple or wherever they were. And when we've got the cube, we were talking about the cube, we've got 12 faces, 8 corners, and 6 faces. We times them together and we get 576. Now, not only is that the note of D, right? That's another D note, like 144 is another D note. When we times 576 by 576, so 576 squared, well, that's the distance from the Great Pyramid to the equator. It is 331770, right? In kilometers. Okay, so like metric is always, seems to me anyway, quite often always connected to music. So metric is like this in distances on there, is connected to the music scale is connected to, especially the D notes, always seem to be connected to metric. So anyway, that's the distance from the Kingstone to the equator. I got that distance from Howard Crowhurst one day, watching one of his videos, right? This was another miracle, how it always happens. Watching a video, wrote down the number, 3317760, just because I was like, okay, that's probably important. So later. The same day, though, I realised, hang on a minute, I was doing something else. It was actually to do with my name, but we won't go there. And it went into, I went, that's that same number, but I realised that's D. So 576, it's, but Howard Crowhurst didn't know that. I was trying to get onto him, like, mate, did you know that that's actually the music scale? That's D squared. That's how the distance from the Great Pyramid to the equator. And of course, 576 is 24 squared. Right? 24 squared is 576. So these things are like the Ouroboros, they keep eating its own tail,
Yeah.
So the cube is 500, 12 edges, 8 corners, 6 faces. But we just take basics, like kindergarten basics, and we get everything that the Egyptians were doing, the Maya, like these people were. I mean, they were no slouches, clearly, The Archivist channel has got some incredible videos, and he showed one about the Quetzalcoatl Pyramid Complex. And he shows that some researchers went in there a decade or two ago, and they realised that the entire complex, the whole thing, lines up perfectly. Even like, you got the little satellite pyramids, like little baby ones. So there's 3 of them. And they showed, these researchers showed that the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in 7 BC, it lines up the whole complex. So where the moon was on each night. So it happens 3 times a great conjunction every 300 years. That's the most rare, is the triple conjunction. And this goes back to Egypt too. It's on like coffin lids, and it shows you like which pharaohs were born under a triple conjunction, and they give names. And when you check against the names, you can see, because they're so rare, you get a great conjunction every 20 years, but you only get a triple every sort of 300-ish years, right? So the whole complex in Quetzalcoatl Pyramid Complex lines up to the triple conjunction. Shows you the moon on that night, then 2 months later, there's the moon, but here's where Saturn and Jupiter are. I mean, that's insane effort, like all that thousands and thousands of tons of stone to move for that event. Of course, it does other things, and it's, you've got a lot more information going on there, but that's the main motivation behind the whole bloody complex. So these basic things were noticed. They were just noticed, and man just went, okay, that's doing this. Saturn's doing 378 days. Jupiter's doing 399, right? And it comes back to the same spot. How are these things related? So while we're talking about the Maya, the other day I was doing some count on that, and it was all the synodic periods, right? And because we've got the notes of C, which is just the doubling, always doubling, like the octave. It's the octave column, isn't it? So I went 2048, which is just a note of C, or just all the doubling columns, 2048. And I minus all the synodic periods, right? 378 Saturn, 399 Jupiter, 780 is Mars. What was the other one? 584 is Venus, and 116 is Mercury, right? And I took them all off the C note, and I got 1152, which is another D. That's the note of D again. So it never departs from the music of the spheres, this quadrivium. It doesn't matter what we do, the universe is obeying the law of the string. You halve it, you get an octave. You get thirds and fifths. And the planets are doing the exactly same thing. They're obeying these laws because they can't be broken. Like if we had a jam together and I played the middle of the string, and all of a sudden, by some miraculous thing, it wasn't an octave. It wasn't a duplicate of the tonic note. We'd have tsunamis. The earth would shatter. It'll be like the never-ending story. There'd be the nothing, because you have to logically. You halve a string, you have an octave. That's just it, mate. Nothing we can do about this. This is logos. This is the logic. So, yeah, these synodic periods, people think this is fancy talk or something. It's not. It's just they're following the laws of a string. I mean, string theory, I probably was a piss take, but this is all really simple stuff that, like, really the kids can get. My daughter's 10, and she completely understands. She knows exactly. It's so simple. There's all these other Egyptologists that were people that get into this stuff, and they do crazy equations with the square root of every freaking number times 10 to the power of. I'm sitting there in your head spinning, and I'm like, well, how about you just like halve a string and fart, and there you go, boom, voila. But they don't like it because it's not impressive, and I think they all want to look really impressive all the time. And it's embarrassing,
It makes sense. Go ahead, Merlin.
No, I real quick, I agree. I had a professor in college who was an Egyptologist teaching a history course. She was so proud of her degree. And like in hindsight, no offense, but she knew nothing. She got nothing on you, bro. But I'm sorry, Seth, go ahead.
I've just noticed that some of these people have, and I mean, even in a little group and that, and I can't follow anything that they're doing. They've got like 176 divided by 175, then times 54, and you'll get I think it's 432 or something. And I'm like, okay, but why don't you just add from, like, when you look at the harmonic series, the tonic is 1, and then you double and you triple. That's all you do. Any child can do that, and the whole 144, 432, 864, all the numbers that we're familiar with in that scale all pop out. They all fall there, and it's simple. You just double and you triple. So, but they want to do these convoluted, crazy things. I'm like, well, yes, it works. I mean, I can see that it works, but it was unnecessary, and there's no beauty in that complicated, convoluted. But basically, you can't get, the layman. The layman can't really get involved in it because he's kerfuffled. He's like, what are you talking about? I can't follow it. But for me, I've got to bring it back to this bare basics, which that's where it stems from. That's where it began. So I want to go back to the beginning, really. Draw the circle, 6 circles around one, boom, the seed of life. Anyone can do that. Anybody can do it. So that's why I like it. That's why I stick to it, because it's an even playing field. Everyone can get excited about it. And really, this is the beginnings of all religion. Every religion. We're at war at the moment, right? And every religion, these idiots only knew that this bit was literally the beginning of every single spiritual faith known to man. These people that built pyramids and stuff weren't, superstitious idiots. These people were observers, and they saw these basic fundamental things and went, oh, the universe is orderly. And that order is from the string. These things, the planets are doing the same thing. Oh, our body, we call them organs in our body. So,
dude.
This is why, people, because everything's making a tone. So one last one that's on my YouTube channel, but I'll show you this quickly, is just the nonagon, right? Because it always comes back to 9. All these things, always you'll notice, sum to 9, right?
4, 3, 2, yeah.
Yeah. So the nonagon, 9-sided shape, the interior angles all add up to 1260 degrees. And the 1260, we just times 1260 by 2 pi, and we get the mean diameter of the Earth. Well, we get 7920.108. I mean, that's kind of sexy. But, so yeah, it's simple. Nonagon, 9-sided shape. There's the interior angle. Times it by 2 pi, that's 6 and a little bit. And boom, we've got the size of the planet. I mean, what are the odds of that? And how much more simple can it be?
It's incredible.
And wait, you're using kilometers for the distances and all the planet size and all that? You're using metric?
No, that's miles. 7920 is miles.
Those miles.
Yep. But I'm going to do some really kind of in-depth videos on just how simple the connection between imperial and metric is. And that it's just really basic stuff. The 2 fretboard, simple, simple. I don't use square root of anything. It's plus, minus, simple stuff anyone can do. And it's all there. So you can see that these ancients didn't need anything crazy, convoluted or complicated. They just sort of noticed, observed, and went, and just followed along. And their systems all emerged from what was already emerging.
That makes sense, that our systems we put in place are just reflections of the greater picture that we find ourselves in, right?
Yeah.
So if overtones are the fundamental way that the Earth vibrates, if there's a pitch, it doubles itself, it triples itself, it quadruples itself, it would make sense that maybe that's how the luminaries also work. Because I've always been thinking, like, what are the stars? What put them in place? How do they get there? They do seem more like overtones than anything. Like if we have 2 major luminaries, the sun and the moon, I'm developing a theory, it's not fully thought out, that the planets are actually harmonics that are just resonating as a result of those other 2 luminaries. And that's why the periods get longer and longer. But they're also mathematically related. For example, Merlin, I know you're not a fan of the outer planets, but did you know that Pluto to Neptune makes a perfect fifth? It's a 3-to-2 ratio, their orbit times.
Yeah, and they also made those connections way after the discovery of I think they shoehorned those in there because this is a fun fact. This is a fact that up until it's somewhere in the 1930s, they believed that Uranus had a longer orbit period than Neptune. They literally thought Neptune was quicker than Uranus until the 1930s. So I think they went back and retrofitted those numbers for the outer planets to be more divine after the fact, once they realized, hey, this looks and smells like shit, basically. But
So
yeah, no,
we can't trust the math of the outer planets or much what they tell us about the outer planets.
hey, I'm a dummy. I mean, the fact that it is a fifth is cool, if that's the case.
If that's the case. But I mean, regardless, I do think what Dane was talking about, as far as like these numbers are just there and it's for us to find. Studying
Yes.
432 is a way to do that, because it's just so mathematically perfect. Like at some point we got off the musical standard of making A 432 hertz. If we had kept it there, it would make all of our calculations so much easier. But instead, we raised the pitch just a tiny bit. Now we're locked in at 440. A lot of people debate whether or not this is a real psyop, a real operation to take us out of harmony with the universe. It very well could be, because of how perfect 432 is. And if A was 432, then all the other pitches would be, roughly whole numbers. And there's just so much mathematical precision and beauty and harmony in 432 itself. It has so many factors. 3 cubed times 2 to the 4th is 432. It's also a multiple of 144, which is a divine number, and 108, another divine number. And as it relates to time, this is very interesting to me, how there are 43,200 seconds in 12 hours. And 12 hours is one clock face if we use a 12-hour clock. And I've always thought about, too, the connection between the Earth and the sun with the clock, right? When you try to calculate how fast the sun is moving, because again, I think we're all geocentrists here, they say the circumference is roughly 24,000 miles of the equator. Interestingly, there are 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So things are starting to line up right away. It's closer to 25,000, but that's also part of the beauty of the cosmos, is that sometimes there's a little bit of shift, a little bit of phase in the relationship of these things. Like the sun and the stars almost rotate at the exact same speed, except they get off 1 degree every 72. What is it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's 50 seconds per year.
Right. So
1 degree every
72 years, we're shifting from the phase of the stars. And then if you take 432 and divide it by 60, you get 7.2. So that's very interesting to me. And then as far as the greater cycles, the great years and all that, you're starting to see numbers like 432,000 and 4,320,000. So 432 is encoded in the smallest bits when we measure seconds. It's also encoded in the largest bits when we measure years. Obviously, the year is not arbitrary, because you just have to look up to find what the year is. And there's even, I guess we could, I don't want to get too deep into 144, but it's another factor of 432. And 144 also has this beautiful harmony to it. So anyone who wants to study like the mathematical harmony of the universe, start by breaking down 432 every way that you can. And you're going to start to see all of its factors, its multiples, and then you can play around with those. You can study why 108 is a sacred number, why 144 is a sacred number. And the flower of life contains all this in it. We didn't put it there. This is not arbitrary. Yeah. And the last thing I'll mention is just like Revelation even speaks of 144,000 people of the 12 tribes of Israel. Each one has 12,000 people in it. And then when they measure the length and the breadth of the new city in Jerusalem, the new earth, it basically is 144,000 furlongs square. Same with the height in cubits. So what does this number mean? Is there something to it that's cosmic? I would say so. And yes. What did you say about 144 earlier, Dane? You mentioned you dropped something about 144.
144 for a month straight, without stopping, without even taking a breath. This motherfucker is insane. It governs everything. You say the flower of life. This thing is imprinted on. You find it in Egypt. Like you find it like, you know, it's they reckon it's like burned into the stone, you know, but it's all over the entire planet. And look, if these people couldn't scream any louder, you know, they knew that there'd be some douchebags probably that would try and pull down the pyramids, which they did try and failed. But they encoded, I mean, the whole thing was covered in 144,000 casing stones. I mean, can they scream any louder? 144. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. You know, 1440 minutes in a day. You know, it's it just goes on and on. But there's a guy called Sacred Geometry Decoded, and he hasn't put up videos for years now. But you go back to his channel, and I encourage everyone to go and find this video now. He draws the clock. He just draws the clock with his dividers, right? Draws a circle. He goes in there. I think he does 12 circles, you know, instead of the 6, he does another step. And there's your clock face. And the angles that go around, you know, from 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you draw it. Okay? So if the Earth wasn't 7,920 miles, this clock face wouldn't even work. 24 hours a day wouldn't work. None of it works. It just so happens that it does. And it fits perfectly. I mean, come on, people. I mean, it's talk about a tough crowd. The Earth, human beings really need to just fire out. I don't even know what to say there. It's like talk about a tough crowd because I mean, even studying the eyeball for your whole life, you've got to be joking. However, there's any atheists at all.
Yes, dude.
It's mental. I mean, you just check your pulse because you're not here. So, I mean, the fact that we can just draw circles, right, and just you know, without changing its radius, just and then you've got a clock face, and it just happens to fit the entire universe. I mean, get fucked.
Yeah.
So
this is a great comment.
Yeah.
So, sorry to cut you off. Percy's Rag just commented, you know, the average lifetime of a man is 1 day in the great year. And that's true. If you look up what the average lifespan of a human is, they say 72 years.
Yeah.
And that is 1 degree of slippage, right? In the precession
even
of
the
equinoxes.
word degree is like degree. You know, you got the great year degree, but then also throughout the zodiac, the sun moves roughly 1 degree per day, 1 degree per day.
Well, a day, as Ryan Seven was saying the other day, a deity. The deity.
Yeah.
You get the days from. You get from the seven luminaries: Sun, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, the 7. So it always comes back to the same. Like the whole universe is screaming a lesson, like a you know, just pay attention. You know, shut the F up and just watch. And you don't have to speak a word. Draw some circles, and you'll realise, hang on a minute, this whole place is doing this, and it can't be busted open. It can't be broken. So I'll just quickly show you 6 times 7 times 8 times 9. Right, that gives us that 3,024, which is the base of the Great Pyramid in feet. Right, the whole perimeter base. So we'll take that as the bottom length of this triangle. Right? And we'll go up the other side, the note of C. That 2048 that we were showing earlier, 2048. And what's the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is 365.224. Right? I mean, this stuff's play. It's child play. Like all of the entire universe is really based on basic. When I say that too, it doesn't sort of even sound right because it's more than just basic. I always come back to 6 circles fit round 1 and harvesting you get an octave. I say it and it sort of just goes over people's heads because it's sort of like, yeah, and so what? But I keep saying it and I will continue to say it forever because you can't harvest string and get anything but the octave. If people just sit with that for more than 3 seconds, you'll realise that they're both sides of the string are equal. And of course, what we hear will also be equal. It all matches. Of course, it matches. Of course, it is the octave. So, if the universe was to break that law, you know, you wouldn't be on a planet. You wouldn't even be in a body. You know, the skin would be on the inside, the organs would be on the outside. Everything's ordered. You cannot fuck with the octave. You can't fuck the bloody seed of life. You can't mess with that. There's nothing we can do. It's just law. It just emerges. So
Yeah, and that's why the Freemasons have the compass as one of their main symbols, because they recognize that that's how they can find God, is with the compass. You know, people need, I said this earlier, but if you're just tuning in, you need to get a compass and draw the flower of life. All you need is one circle with the same radius with the compass, and you keep drawing the circles, starting on the edge of the other circle you just drew, and the flower of life emerges. You see the sacred geometry in it. You see the hexagon pop out. You see the 12-sided shape pop out. And then that superimposes with the circle of fifths, which, you know, that's very musical as well. And because there's 12 notes, and it's arranging them in a perfect circle, and how they all progress through into each other. So, you know, I could talk for days about the circle of fifths, but I love, Dane, I love how you're just like, it's just there. You know, it's up to us to kind of pick up on it or not.
Totally. And that's why I really do think that the Masons, or whatever, all these different groups people go on about, taking the piss. Because it's so primary school level that if people haven't realised it by now, you know, they feel, I can see how they feel justified to do what they do, whether it be, you know, whatever. We could go into all those things, the nefarious stuff that they might get up to. I think that they realise that humans are basically walking corpses. Because if they haven't just done the simple stuff and noticed basic, simple things, then they're really kind of corpses walking around. They can't be living. And this is how I feel. When COVID sort of hit, you know, and everyone wearing the mask and getting the vaccines and stuff, yeah, I could have predicted that 40 years, because people really aren't sort of here, you know. And I know we got off topic a little bit, and I did this the other day, and they didn't end up putting the video out. But I don't care. It's got to be said that if you don't own a compass, and you don't own just a straight edge and a compass, then, you know, then go and get vaxxed and wear your mask, you know, and fuck off, really. Because you haven't even done the simple basic, and it really is irresponsible. For most of men are just like obedient and submissive, and this is embarrassing. And I've been saying for years, where are the men? Where are the men? Okay, but there's males, everyone's got the junk, but where are the men? Because men aren't submissive and obedient, you know. They investigate these sorts of basic things and realise, holy shit, yeah, it's all ordered. This is a musical instrument. You know, this whole thing is a miracle of musical perfection, and it's harmonic. And of course, like you said earlier in the very beginning, when you said when we sing a note, all 7 notes are actually there embedded. And, you know, all the overtones and notes, like, you know, on an instrument, yes, but even when we sing a note, you know, and it's just like we think it's a pure note, but it isn't. It's got all the overtones and harmonics embedded in it. These things really will, I mean, we're seriously going to Iran. I mean, it's all fake, really, but every different conflict, whether it be Muslim, Jew, Christian, Sikh, we're talking like fucking retarded monkeys, because every single one of these people have started here. And why do the Freemasons have the compass in the square? Because they know that that's what Jesus is. They know that's what Muhammad is. They know that's what all of it is. You know, and all these ridiculous buildings that we still can't, you know, we still can't build them. We've got no idea how they did this stuff. But I know how they designed it. They designed it from all this. But how they actually lifted all that stuff or built the thing, we still don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's not even impressive to people anymore, is it? Or it's like, oh, yeah, the pyramids. It's just, I don't know. I honestly, I'm a simpleton, guys, but what can you say? That it's not impressive enough. You know, the human body, the eyeball, the fingers, the pyramid's not impressive. People are just wandering around, you know, screaming about the Muslims or something. You know, it's mental. It's yeah. When we look at, say, the Islamic golden age, you know, and all the mosaics and stuff, I mean, all this geometric patterning, and the Jews were doing it. You know, you look at their zodiac on the floor of these things we're digging up, and it's all perfect geometric perfection. So, you guys still there?
Yeah,
Yep.
Your picture froze, but okay, it's coming back. I think it just is lagging a little bit for a second. You're good now. You're good.
That's all I'm trying to say, guys. Is that I'm not intelligent, and the numbers are just there. You just if you got one rock, two rocks, three rocks, you just start adding them together. You get up to 27. You've got the Sinotic period of Saturn. I mean, you've got he comes back to the same place 378 days, and basic arithmetic up to 27. Again, the sums to 9. This stuff is so simple, and to complicate it really is an ego trip. And when you said before, Merlin, like, do you mind if I call it the sacred secret or whatever? Like, dude, I don't own anything. Like, I own none of this. I don't own a number or a frequency or, an idea. These things were already there. And that's it. They were already there. Mankind fell upon them. He discovered them and went, holy shit, hey, buddy, check this out. And they're all going, no way, it's just there. And that's it. That's kind of my whole thing, is that it's just already there. And a little bit of investigation without the ego and trying to be clever, you'll see that it's as basic as halving a string and getting an octave. That's it.
It really is incredible. Like that's what's so fulfilling about this is like people live these crazy complex lives and yet you can find the secrets of the universe or rather the world, creation in something as simple as a circle. And how beautiful is that? Just like a deep deep study of the simplest shape can yield such beautiful fruit that God, like you said, he left it there. It was waiting for us to discover. And like, what a gift. And this is one of the many reasons I take issue with people who say, oh, we're in a prison planet. Oh, Earth is actually hell. Oh, Satan's in charge. No, 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 no. I at least feel very lucky to be here. And I'm very grateful. Like, no matter what bad happens, the amount of good and the amount of beauty in the world, I think, far outweighs it. And like you said, where are the men? I think it's our job to make this world a better place. God gave us free will. Let's use that free will to literally connect to God and do the right thing. Like you mentioned earlier, was that the Mayans you were talking about with so the Mayans built that incredible structure that lined up with the most rare heavenly conjunction. And I think something that difficult pleases God. True, like how am I to, but like I have to think he smiles down upon that work compared to say watching pornography or playing video games or doing something useless with your time, right? Like versus building something so incredible, so beautiful and so difficult. It's like the difficulty of it, I think, matches the beauty of the design in a way. And like with that will, like it'll just manifest. Like you said, like how do they do it? I think because they wanted so deeply to connect to God that the will manifested.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like the circle. We're talking about the circle. How it's always, it just comes back to the beginning. This kind of circular. We know that the stars go around and around in that circle. Everything's doing this simple stuff you can see, and we've got the golden angle, right? Everyone who's heard about the golden angle of 137.5 degrees. You can see stuff on it where the leaves on a tree, they all separate so they can get enough sun, but it's all around about 137.5. You look at all those cathedrals and arches and stuff, and all the arches, because they're not perfect circular arches, they've got these special arches and truncated arches, not truncated, anyway, they're 137.5. But as we know, and so even the spiral up a pine cone or the pineapple or whatever, these things we can all see. Like, but yet, men say we're watching porn and we're doing all this ridiculous stuff and saying it's a prison planet. And this is mental. Like, look at this. I've been doing this for years. People think I'm nutty. Yeah, I am. But I just do this every day and with my fingers and just go, you've got to be joking. Look at this thing. Like, it's insane to be in a body. It's just incredible. So the prison planet, honestly, guys, hang a rope in a tree and do us a favour. Because, 137.5, right? We've got, what was it again, times, I think it was 2.5. And we get the size of the sun. So the sun's giving us the rays that make things grow. And these things that are growing are actually growing at 137.5 degrees. and we times it by the 2 pi, and we get 864. Minutes in a day. I'm sorry, not minutes, seconds in a day. I mean, isn't it? It's 864,000.
Yeah, 86,400 is the amount of seconds in a day.
Yeah, and we've done this. We've got the golden angle, which all of nature's doing, and it's coming from the sun, and we've got so we times the golden angle by 2 pi, and we get 864. I mean, what are the freaking odds of all these things? Zero.
Yeah, it's embedded in our bodies too. Like you were alluding to, like your hands and fingers, and also the octave. How beautiful is it that, on average, I know we all have different range of our voices, but on average, a woman's voice is exactly 1 octave higher than the man's. So in a way, the woman's body is an octave of the man's. Just in the pitch of their voice. If I go ah, she's going ah. It's just an octave higher. And that's also why women and girls are more attracted to smaller instruments, at least in band. I came up in concert band when I was a kid, and there were more girls playing flute and clarinet because they're smaller instruments and they're high pitched, and that's how their voice sounds. And the music we choose is sort of reflective of our body's vibration. So I chose the tenor saxophone, and right now the range of the tenor is basically the exact range of my own voice. So yeah, the woman's voice is 1 octave higher than the man's on average. I mean, it's just there. It's not a fifth. It's not a sixth. It's not a seventh. It's almost exactly 1 octave higher in pitch. And there's so much that we could probably break down with the human body, the chakra system being 7 chakras, just like 7 notes of a major scale, the way it all divides into the 5, even 5. And that's the pattern of Venus over 8 years.
Yeah.
You can go on and on and on, but it's all encoded in our bodies too, because we are I used to say we're the microcosm, but I think we're actually the mesocosm. I think we're actually like the humans is like the middle dimension. The cosmos is obviously the macro, but then there is a microcosm, and that's the stuff that we can barely see. It's like the super tiny microscopic stuff. I think humans are sort of the mesocosm. We're the middle dimension from which we experience life, but we're part of that fractal system. So
Yeah.
as above, so below, it's all a reflection of each other.
Yeah. These phrases like as above, so below, and all that aren't just silly phrases. It's fact. It's like and I want to say I've got a 0 IQ, and I just went for basic stuff, the K string, dong dong dong, and I've got Moon, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. I've looked on the line everywhere to find anyone. I was like, someone's done this, but this will be out there everywhere. There's probably 10 books on it, I can't find a goddamn thing. So that's freaking me out hard. Like, how on earth is it not? This isn't known. It's so easy. Honestly, it's so weird. But I'm doing it. But it's just no accident. Right now it's kind of perfect time because we're in Iran and there's whatever stuff going on and all this stuff. But it's these religious conflicts and these messiahs and Kalki from India or the Mashiach or all this stuff. They're trying to bring it to a head.
Mm-hmm.
And the Masons all know that they know this shit. This is what they know. This would be somewhere in their archives, but in the public it doesn't seem to be there as far as the music, the quadriviums, the connections, how they are one system. They are in sort of one side, in one bubble. They've got, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, and harmony. They are inside one bubble. But people study them out on their own and don't sort of see the link between how they are all like the caduceus. They're all just wrapping around each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's all vibration.
Yeah.
I got a book recommendation for anyone who wants, because he just made me think of how geometry is music, which is astronomy, which they all are part of the same universal vibration of the universe. There's a book called The Mysticism of Sound and Music by Hazrat Inayat Khan. He's a Sufi mystic. He was a musician and he gave up musicianship to be a lecturer and basically now he says he plays the universe. Like that's his instrument. He's since passed away, but when he was writing, he says, I'm still a musician. I just play the universe now. I play, through my speaking and through writing. But he links sound and light vibration as being the same exact thing. They're all just vibration. It all comes down to vibration. And just like there's overtones in sound and octaves, there's overtones in light as well. And actually, have you guys seen the periodic table of elements expressed as a sine wave going up? It's not like the grid that we see in science class. It's actually like it's a sine wave going up and down, and it's the different rows of the periodic table are like different octaves of vibration.
Is that like a Walter Russell thing? Because I think that's where I've seen that. Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen here. Pretty much this, right? Or
yeah, that because that's got all the that one right there. Either one.
Yeah. Yep.
How these elements are, if they have twice the atomic number, for example, is that an octave of the previous element?
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense because, like, again, like it's an oversimplification, but like steel is essentially fortified iron, both ruled by Mars. So yeah, they're octaves, 100%.
I mean, you've got all those temples in India, or even the King's Chamber, or whatever, and the what's it called in Malta, the underground cave. They've all been carved out perfectly, but they're they all tuned. All of them are tuned. The ones in India, the temples in India, there's so many, there's thousands of them, and they all resonate to specific notes. The lengths that they've gone to, like we're talking hundreds of thousands of metric tons of stone being pulled out of these cliffs. They're just a whole cliff buried into it, and they all resonate at very specific frequencies. Why they go to such lengths? And for me, it's preservation, so that we can, future generations would find it and would be curious and go, okay, what are they trying to teach us way down the line? So it's obviously these harmonic musical understanding was known deeply, and they know that the whole universe is doing it. And when man forgets, hopefully these structures and stuff are still there, which they are. They're still there. I mean, the Muslims tried to smash up a whole bunch of India and all over the world, but others as well have tried to destroy these buildings, but they still exist. We can still measure and realise, hang on, these lengths and measures that we're getting, height, everything, is all on this fretboard. So, or on the monochord. I like the monochord better because it's sort of it's a lot more basic. It's just that one. You don't need the 6 strings. I think just one string, and the ratios that break up all those notes. Even if it's quarter tones, even if you want to squeeze in some quarter notes, still the laws still apply. They are still. Yeah, there's still a fundamental universal law of order. And so to divide and conquer was a piss take,
Yeah, and what's great about the compass is like if you understand that the compass that points in directions only points north, which is the center of Earth, and then the other compass draws circles, you truly understand what Earth is. Like why are those both called a compass? Is no coincidence there.
No.
Yep, and when you make a circle with the compass, you put the little point in the center. That becomes the center of your circle. That's the North Pole.
Exactly.
Axis Mundi.
Yes.
It's all right there, and that's what the sun is doing, man. I can't wait until children are being taught this in school instead of this garbage that they're being taught from, Robert Maxwell's publishing company. Just the most garbage astronomy and astrology that just twists your brain and warps it and gaslights children into thinking they're crazy. Wait a minute, it doesn't make sense that we're spinning. I don't feel it. There's no centrifugal force. That's because you're dumb and you don't understand it. You're not a rocket scientist. I can't wait until we're actually taught the true nature of this planet, because it's actually much simpler.
Yeah,
it's much simpler.
It's so simple. So simple. Yeah. Have you guys heard of Steve Young?
Oh yeah, this alchemist. I have his book. I've given his book away to people. I love Stephen Young, bro.
oh man, I love that guy, you know. And yeah, he's got all the credentials. So you know, he's obviously saying, you know, all these things don't even exist. You know, I was saying that 20 years ago, but I kept quiet because you know you get ridiculed loudly. But yeah, Stephen Young's come along, and you know, these things are pretty obvious. You know, it's just the perception. You only have to perceive of something and it's scary. You know, hide under your desk, sneak in a wall, whatever's going on. It was the same, yeah, we can get off topic, but same as COVID, you know, people took it because they were going to be perceived. So it was all perception, you know, and that's what's being manipulated. These simple laws. It's like once you know this stuff, you can say to like Randall Carlson's or all the gurus, you can say, we got the memo. Like, lads, we got the memo. Right, it's the monochord reveals all, and you know, the synodic periods reveal the monochord, and the monochord reveals the planets. You know, they all are working in unison together in this one perfect law. It's lawful. That's why Saturn's law and all these things. You know, it's so simple. It was never complicated. That's why I don't know. It's sort of kerfuffled the whole world. And we are in conflict because confusion creates conflict and friction. And when all these things can be so simply resolved with basic knowledge that you guys know that what we're sharing here today, it's so simple. And,
Dude, you just said Saturn's law. Law backwards is wall. Saturn's the wall, the boundary, the border, the extremity. It's incredible. That's what law is.
And wall, when you flip the the W, you get mal, M-A-L, and Saturn's the greater malefic.
Nice.
yeah, man. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, bro, there's no off topic. The conversation goes where it goes. That's what's so beautiful. Like everything's connected, you know? Like you brought up earlier, the quadrivium's all connected. Nothing exists in a vacuum. And that works on so many different levels in this conversation. We're literally not spinning in a vacuum, but all information, everything's connected. So yeah, it's just a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, really. Like the religious conflicts around the world are full on. I mean, they're big, you know, and they always have been, haven't they, for thousands of years? They've always been this kind of ongoing cyclical, ridiculous conflict. When you know the fronts of all those Masonic buildings, they're showing you, you're just doing this. Why is that on the front door? And all the presidents and mates and whatever, right? This is, I mean, but still, no, it's just there's no. How many people that you know own one of those? You know, and yeah,
Not
investors-
enough.
Yeah, man.
Even the G in the compass and square, people ask, does it mean God? Does it mean geometry? Is it the generative principle? And it's like, yeah,
All of the above.
It's all that. I think the generative principle is, again, that flower of life. You start with a circle and you just start making more circles according to just some very basic bounds. Then you're going to create the fabric of the universe on paper. You're going to be able to create the most beautiful architecture blueprint with that flower of life, harmony in any type of painting. So people need to do that. And they also need to start understanding music and just basic ratios, basic, the overtone series. People think strings are the only thing that resonate with the overtone series, but the trumpet, if you blow into the trumpet, you basically start at the octave. You blow harder, you get the fifth. You blow harder, you get the octave again. You blow harder, you get the third. It's the overtone series. So that's how a brass instrument works. And same with the saxophone. If I hold a low B flat, honk it out, I just have to adjust a little bit of my embouchure and basically blow harder. And I get the octave above that. I get the fifth, I get the octave, I get the third, the fifth, the seventh, the octave. It's the overtone series. Every instrument utilizes it, whether it's a string, a tube, a voice, or just like a bell, like anything that resonates, anything that has a pitch to it, the overtone series is there. And I'm going to look more into the planets and how they connect to the overtone series. Right now, I am picturing like the cosmos as a symphony with the Earth is the stage, sun and the moon are the conductors, you got Saturn as your base because it has the lowest frequency. And then you got, Jupiter as your tenor instrument, and you got Mercury as the soprano. It's the one that's moving the fastest. And then you have your Venus and Mars and everything in the middle. That's your alto range. So to see it as like a stack of frequencies with Mercury being super fast, Saturn as being really slow, controlling and ruling that that low edge, sonic edge of the universe. That's kind of how I see it. And I would like to learn more about the actual ratios of the cycles of these planets. We should do another like deep dive on this sometime.
100%, man.
Yeah, I mean the Maya they had it nailed. They had a little bit of a different system, slightly, but it was again, it always still ties into the Egyptian or whatever. Right? It doesn't act alone or do something different or crazy or wild. But what you were just saying about the ratios between them all, like they used Mercury as the messenger. You know about that one, don't you? Mercury's the messenger, Hermes and all the rest of it. So they had Mercury's got 117 days to the Maya, right? That's 117 days to Nordic period.
Wait, I thought it was 88.
Well, that's the sidereal, but the synodic 117.
Can you explain the difference?
Yeah. Now the sidereal, you can probably pull it up easy enough in Merlin and just read it out. The difference.
Yeah,
wait. Is it 88 days in relation to the sun, but then 117 relation to Earth?
Yeah. And synodic is more, so you're looking along the ecliptic and you see Mercury and you sort of just pick a star on whatever night, okay, that star, and you've got to remember which star it is. And when it comes back to there, it's 117 days later. So that's
okay.
I think 88 days is from the sun's perspective, I think.
Relative to the sun. Got it. So it's Mercury in relation to a different luminary. Those are synodic and sidereal.
Yeah. And the synodics are what I've been right into. And also, that's only because is the Egyptians and the Maya and all the builders. I call them the builders, right? The builders, I just follow them. I'm like, what are they doing? What are they trying to show me? And I'm like, oh, what are they showing me? Oh, my God, look what they're showing me. So I didn't do any of this stuff. I did not do this. I was just taking clues and cues from them. So they've got 117, and what they realised, which is insane, they're like, okay, here's the messenger. And I've shown it on one of my Saturn Rooster videos, but it's basically, they times him by 7, right? 7, of course. And we get 819. Now, 819, that's gone poorly, but 819, that becomes the key to unlock all the other planets out to Saturn and no further. And so we got Saturn is 819 times 6, and we get 4914, right? So they've got like, and we divide his 378 days into that perfectly as well. So I can keep going with this. I don't want to get too complicated for today, but it's really simple. It really is basic. It just use Mercury, who's weaving like the caduceus between all the planets, and he does this number. But then let's go to Jupiter. I think it was Jupiter was 819 times 19, I think it was. And it came out at 15561, right? Days, 40 days and stuff. And so if you play around with this kind of stuff, people, like you can go and find this pretty easy about the Maya synodic counts and the way that they did it, like their system. It's like it teaches you who you are and where we are in this magical place that is not a figure, that is Eden. This place is Eden, and there's no two ways about it. That's it. You don't think so? We need to cuddle and go to the beach and hang out with Courtney for a couple of days. You'll come to it. Now, this is the last thing I'll show for today, right? This is the best thing I've ever found, and it's real simple. We've gone over to 630, and this 472.5. That was the 24th fret where Saturn was. Okay, Saturn was sitting there. That's our string length. Saturn was sitting here. So I just went boom, boom. And this little, I can't remember what they call that. There's a little H line that goes through there. Well, 378. And I was like, oh God, There's Saturn. He's right there. And this here is like 2 meters. Is that in inches? It's 2 meters. And then if you take half of that and a tenth actually of the whole line, we get a meter. So we've got it, and then 1890 is the perimeter. Well, that's half of Saturn's synodic period. There's been a 0 on the end. But when I started to add all these together, I won't do it today. But when I just went, okay, 630 and this, and then just using this 3-4-5 triangle, and it is a perfect 3-4-5 as well. All right. So just using these numbers here, and you type that into your little calculators, people at home. Like just go triangle calculator, and you'll see what those ones in. And those numbers, I'll show in another time if we have another chat. But basically, every single synodic period of the Maya, right, the 4914 for Merlin, they all came out, like all 5. And I was like, no way, just from the 3-4-5 triangle, just from 3-4-5 triangle with the string length and with the 24th fret of Saturn just going up. And you're right, that's all I used, and every synodic period in the Maya was popped out. I'm like, this is child's play, people. It really is child's play. And all the academics, no wonder they don't get it, because they're trying too hard, or I don't know, they're trying to look impressive. I don't know, man. But you've got to basically be an idiot, and you'll work it out. So I think 6 billion people are idiots. You guys will be fine. You can work it out. It's simple, man. Yeah.
100%, dude. It's beautifully simple, you know? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm just sick of the conflict between human beings. Like I'm fucking jack of it. Like there should be. It's ridiculous. It's completely unnatural, and it doesn't need to be. It does not need to be. We can actually, we can break bread together, man. Like every color, every size, every shape, and realize when we know that this is this harmonic, perfect balance of absolute perfection, then all the rest of that, anything else, any conflict is just, illogical and irrational, and provably so with simplicity. So that's what motivates me to look at numbers and shit like that. I don't care about numbers. I care about you. I care about people at home that are, freaking out and bluing, and am I an accident, and why am I here? What am I doing here? And all this shit, the basic stuff of life. These things really create so much awful shit in this world, and it just doesn't need to be there. I think once the kids are taught this stuff, like we were saying before, they'll realise, it's order, law and order is how everything is functioning.
And it's such good news too, it's a true understanding of God's intelligent design. Like you said, like the law, it's not man's law, it's God's law.
Yeah, man.
Seth, you had your screen pulled up earlier. Did you want to share something, or?
I don't know if I want to get into the circle of fifths now. It's a whole thing. I would need a lot of time. Maybe we can do another episode on that, because it's how the circle of fifths of music plays into the signs and the zodiac.
Okay.
And the bright side of the sky in the year, and then the dark side of the sky in the year. I mean, if you want, I can give you the short 2-minute version of it, but I really like to go off the deep end with it sometime.
Let's do it another time then. That's totally all good.
Cool. I'll leave you guys hanging there then. A little teaser.
I basically gave the basics today too, because I've got if I show you right here, I've got books just full of numbers, baby. But it's you see all these decoders out there in the world doing gematria, and freaking Trump's gonna fart tomorrow, and you know what I mean, at 3 o'clock. These people, God bless, everyone's having a go. That's nice, but fuck.
It's crazy. You mentioned the conflict in the world, and it's funny, man. Like, you'd think people would learn, after COVID, after Iraq, after Afghanistan, it's like the meme. They fell for it again. They're falling for it again. It's like, how do people not learn that they're being played. Like, we're talking about instruments. Literally, the movers of the world are playing people like instruments, like the corpses you mentioned. They're like it's crazy.
Dude,
Guys,
if we spent the
this, guys.
time like instead of
Yeah.
watching the news, watching God's design, we'd
Yeah.
be ascended beings by now.
Well, what's Pan? Pan's Saturn, isn't it? Really, Pan, the goat and all that. And he's playing the pied, the pan pipe and just leading them all down the garden path, It's crazy that, we can't be, it just happens over and over again like a Groundhog Day. It's bizarre, man.
It is. All right, gentlemen. I mean, we all mentioned. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap it up. Guys, I sincerely appreciate both of your time. Literally, we're all over God's beautiful earth, and we all made time to come together right now. I sincerely appreciate it, guys. This conversation was lit. I had high hopes for it, and it exceeded those high hopes. Like, genuinely, thank you both for being here. Any closing thoughts, Dane?
No, just that let's break bread together. It's time to break bread together, get out the instruments, teach the kids basic chords and sounds, and they can jam together, and we can go swim with the dolphins like I do every day. And that's it. I mean, I'm a simpleton, and that's what motivates me, is to do any number stuff or anything, is all of us. We are all made in the image. That's it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Seth, any closing thoughts, brother?
Just to piggyback off that, I mean, we are made in the image. It's all there in the universe. I think study nature as much as you can. Don't study the news. Don't study current events. I mean, if you really like that, go ahead. But study God's design, and the fruits are there for you. It's benefited my life tremendously to look up at the sky and sometimes just be in awe, not have to think, what are the ratio of the mathematical? Just love it. Just look up and say, damn, we live here. Like, how beautiful. What a gift. And then, breaking bread, playing music together. That's beautiful. I love that positive tip that we can end on. And thank you, Merlin.
Thank you.
If anyone has not heard my conversation with Merlin, I would recommend checking that out on my channel, The School of Unlearning. We talk about God's design. We talk about, we throw up the sine wave. We discuss the archetypes of the different zodiac signs. And then the second half of the show, we get into geocentrism. So that was something that was new for me. I haven't really talked about it publicly. If people knew, most of my friends at this point know that I don't believe in all the mainstream science stuff. So we'll have more conversations, fellas. I really enjoyed this one.
Thanks, boys.
Let me just plug the channels real quick before we dip. So, guys, this is Seth's channel, The School of Unlearning. He also has an Instagram. You can follow him. Seth, what's your Instagram handle? Is it at Seth?
You can the Fruit Companion will be my Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
I got a couple, but
Cool. So Seth's channel, guys, it's about natural living. I'd say that's a decent. I mean, what is your about say? Welcome to the School of Unlearning. We discover the laws of nature. There you go. And guys, it's incredible. It goes from healing your feet from the damage that shoes do, to frugivore living, to geocentrism. It's incredible. Lots of good content. And that's at the School of Unlearn, or at School of Unlearning 11. And Saturn Rooster's channel is equally incredible. It's at Saturn Rooster, and it has, like you saw, I mean, Saturn Rooster was just ladling gravy for hours just now. The channel's full of that, not regurgitated stuff, genuinely incredible, what I would consider modern day discoveries. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to put out some new videos soon about the fretboard, and really just kind of make it concise for everyone, so they can sort of follow. A lot more simple than me just spitting numbers and whatever. It's because that's what it's about, is bringing it simple, boiling it down so it's accessible to everyone. Because if it's not accessible to everyone, people tune out. And it's important to me that everyone can get this stuff on that real childlike level. Be like the children, as our master once said. So be like the children. This is it's a beautiful world, people.
Yeah,
And
to
these
be like
these boys here, what beautiful young men. Thank you for having me, fellas, and let me talk and carry on like I do.
the pleasure was all mine, gentlemen. Truly, just thank you again. And for everyone watching, thank you for hanging out with us. I'm sorry I didn't really check the chat. I saw lots of good comments, but the conversation was so rich. So I sincerely appreciate everybody's time. And I think we're all down to do this again sometime, and we'll figure that out for sure. So
Awesome.
peace out, everybody.
All right, y'all.
Thanks, guys.